greetings to all who have gathered here today with us. I hope you all had a nice cup of tea. Welcome to the fourth session, the student panel discussion on the relevance of the study of 4 immeasurable and 8-fold noble paths with their respective academic studies and lab experiences. I am Kama Zomba, and I will be your moderator for this session. In this session, we have young and dynamic student panelists, along with our chairperson, Professor Dr. Arvind Alok, Chairman, Buddhist Monuments Development Council, New Delhi, Mr. Dheeraj Nibe, PhD Scholar, Department of Buddhist Studies, Delhi University, speaking to us on importance of Brahma vihara of Buddhism for the modern world, followed by Ms. Kamasiju, Deputy Coordinator of Nalinda Courses Tibet House, Culture Center of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, speaking on 7-point mind training from the perspective of Venerable Geshe Chekha Waishi Dorji, Ms. Namsal Hamo, Masters in Applied Psychology, University of Delhi, is speaking on synergizing Buddhist psychology of compassion for psychophysical well-being. Mr. Stanzin Funsok, Master in Philosophy, Delhi University, speaking on the 4 immeasurables and the 8-fold noble path in our day-to-day life. Ms. Vaishali Sarkar, PhD student, speaking on the importance of the Brahma vihara amidst the unsettling state of our world. Ms. Sneha Singh, Master in Philosophy, University of Delhi, speaking on the Noble 8-fold paths, guidelines to simplifying life. And Mr. Tushar Mani Rastogi, Master in Philosophy, University of Delhi, is speaking on the potential significance of 8-fold noble path as an overcoming paradigm shift and ethical teaching on the contemporary issue of social media, which is going to be an appealing to the audience, and I'm too looking forward to the same. Okay, before we proceed, I would like to take a few minutes of your time. I personally feel the 4 immeasurable and 8-fold noble paths plays a vital role in today's modern era. Why? Because we humans are constantly into the race of competition. Therefore, we are lacking of eliminating the following, like ill will, cruelty, jealousy, aversion, and so forth, as we are engrossed in our own self-interest and not thinking for others. The 4 immeasurable and 8-fold noble paths will definitely shape our lives for the welfare of all sentient beings. Now, without taking much of your time, I would like to request Mr. Chairperson, Professor Dr. Arvind Alokji, and following speakers to come on stage and take your respective seats. Mr. Chairperson, Professor Arvind Alokji, Mr. Dheeraj Nirbeji, Ms. Kama Sijula, Ms. Namsalamula, Mr. Stanzin Funsokla, Ms. Vaishali Sarkarji, Ms. Sneha Singhji, and Mr. Tushar Mani Rastogi. Thank you all. Now, please allow me to read a brief introduction of Mr. Chairperson. Professor Dr. Arvind Alok has 25 years of experience in the field of teaching and educational administration. His specialized subjects are Buddhist and Indian philosophy, archaeology, anthropology, ancient history and culture, peace and conflict studies, literature, law, Indian studies, positive psychology, mindfulness, sociological studies, international relations, and comparative religion. Professor Alokji also teaches Sanskrit, Pali, and Hindi. He is a popular face on television as an expert. He also worked in state and central government in different capacities. Member of the government committees, he has the honor to have met president and prime ministers of many countries in India as well as in abroad. He led Indian delegations to several countries. He has been also state guest to some countries. Now I request Professor Alokji to lead this session. Professor Alokji.
Namo tassa bhagavato arhato samma sambuddhassa. Most respected Sangha, most respected Venerables, Director Venerable Sengila, distinguished panelists in all the sessions who are present here, ladies and gentlemen, and also my dear students. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to the Honorable Director for inviting me to this august discussion of four measurables and eightfold path in both the traditions of Sanskrit and Pali, Theravada and Mahayana. Previously, he had invited me, I think 2 or 3 years before, to head a session on Satipatthana Sutta, where panelists were the professors. But this time the panelists are a student, and I feel immensely very happy to chair the session where the presenters are students, the young minds who have an urge to have understanding of knowledge and aspiring masters as well. In the morning inaugural session, the member of the Central Minority Commission, Mrs. Lamo, had rightly mentioned that need of the hour is to discuss among the young minds and the students about these aspects of life of Dhamma. Because ultimately, they are going to shape the destiny of the society, the nation, the family, and themselves. And they are going to contribute to a peaceful world over, where people of all faith, all castes, all creeds, all races can have a participation equally and very respectfully. They can live a life of dignity. Therefore, I really feel privileged to head such a session where the panelists are young scholars, and I was going through the papers, abstracts also. They are nicely elaborated, and you will see after some time that how important to have papers and presentations and deliberations by the young scholar on such very important subject also. Friends, these two important aspects of Buddhism, which totally and clearly, evidently clarify the whole essence of the teachings of Buddha, the four immeasurables and the eightfold path. They can altogether very much create an understanding of the complete aspect of the teachings of the Buddha. For the beginners also, for the listeners also, for the scholars also, and for the followers of the Buddha, including the people who believe in the teachings of the Buddha. Therefore, this type of deliberation is essentially a very sincere effort to the direction of making a suitable environment in the society where people of all types, all races, all castes can easily find happiness. And this type of living togetherness is only possible through compassion and appreciative happiness, unconditional love, and other aspects of life that are very immensely defined in Eightfold Path. I won't like to deliberate on those every point of the subjects and the topics that were very vividly presented since morning. You were all here, the wonderful listeners. I was also here. I would like to just share some of my own experience that how these two aspects of the Buddhist order and Buddhism impacted my life. Though she had read about me one paragraph, but I think my identity is little bit very simple. My native place is Nalanda. I was born in Nalanda. Just when you visit the Nalanda ancient site, behind is my home, my land, my primary school, my secondary school, and college. I have played with the soil of Nalanda. I lived in Nalanda. Whatever today I am because of Nalanda. When you visit my home, I have named it Nalanda. Everything is Nalanda. And because of Nalanda, I travel entire world. It was rightly mentioned about me, and I feel very honored that I visited the entire world, just not as a traveler, rather on the invitations of eminent people of the world. Venerable, I would like to mention you. People won't believe. When I was 19 years old, I became the president of Nalanda Development Council. The then chief minister nominated me. He saw that a young boy has potential. He will do something for Nalanda. Nalanda was just a village. 4 or 5 shops were there. Some lamas were coming, the Tiptams Lama, who had taken refuge in India, some Sri Lankan monks, and Burmese monks. Nalanda Mahavihar had already started, where Purushottam Ranaji is now teaching. He is now not here. It had started. And professors were from Sri Lanka and Burma. Venerable Dharmaratna was the first teacher to introduce Pali in Nalanda Mahavihar. And in the village also. The tradition of Nalanda has been that the masters should visit the villages, teach the farmers, the local people. And in lieu of that, the farmers and the local people will contribute to the maintenance of Nalanda vihara that time. That time nobody was interested to learn Buddhism and Pali in Nalanda because that time situation was very, very difficult. People were in extreme poverty. Because we were farmers, so we had something, a house, our farm to look after ourselves. When this time started, they used to visit villages. Come, study Buddhism. Come, study Pali. Come, study Tibetan language. Very few were ready. I am fortunate that my father, that time he was a rich man of the village because he had enough land. He got convinced that if we have to revive Nalanda, the tradition of Nalanda, we should go first. And he got enrolled in Buddhism. He was very brilliant student. He could have become any officer like that. He did master in Buddhism, PhD in Buddhism, and later on became principal of Nalanda College, there only, just adjacent to my house. So this we have inculcated from our family. And then the responsibility this way came to me also. I did civil engineering. And immediately I had got the job also. At a very young age, I did civil engineering. You will be surprised to know, when I became the chairman of Nalanda Development Council, Sri Nitish Kumar ji, who is now the Honorable Chief Minister of Bihar, was a member because he was the first time MLA from Harnath in this district of Nalanda. Because he had political aspirations, I was from the very beginning that I must do something for Buddhism. I must do something for Nalanda. Friends, you will be surprised to know that I organized a number of conferences in Nalanda as a young boy, where Vice President Shankar Dayal Sharma came as the chief guest. Chief Minister was supporting me because I was the president. Many dignitaries came. Ambassadors used to come because any VIP will come to Nalanda, I was supposed to receive them. So this helped me in spreading the message of Nalanda. And this way, I totally dedicated my life to the tradition of Nalanda and spreading the message of Nalanda, which I have, and this with the blessings of His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama. When I saw him, I was a very young boy in Bodh Gaya. My father took him to Bodh Gaya, maybe 7, 8 years old. And he had come to Nalanda also, but just in their car, and the VIPs were their local government, I could not meet. But I went to Bodh Gaya with my father, and I had darsana also. So with these blessings, I explored the world. From Nalanda, I directly came to Delhi. I left the job. The then education minister heard me in Nalanda, and he said, you should not live in Nalanda. By that time, I became 21 years old, and I became officer on a special duty to him. When I saw that it was long before, the Venerable say that you started Hindi course in Ladakh 30 years ago. I said, yes. Really, it was 30 years ago, because after the term of the minister got over, he said, what you will do? I said, I must teach somewhere. Options were 3. Indira Gandhi Open University had started. NCRT already was there. Then Central Institute of Hindi. I was an author as well, young author. One day I visited the institute. I saw many students learning Hindi and Indology of different countries. I said, I would like to join there. And next week, I became assistant professor. And I was given the responsibility. I had the mandate of the ministry to conduct Hindi courses in Ladakh. So really I did. And when Madam was speaking in chest Hindi, I was very happy. Record is also, that time not television, but radio Ladakh had broadcasted very nicely. I will not take much time. And I had the privilege, as I told Venerable Bimal Ratne is here. When he saw my photo, then the Parliament of Sri Lanka, I as a young man, there as a guest of honor, I was just speaking on Buddhist ethics and morality. I had the privilege to address 2 parliaments in a very young age, Sri Lanka and Thailand. Thailand also because of Nalanda, because Sri Dhon, the princess of Thailand, came to Nalanda. I received her. She was so happy, and she immediately asked the ambassador, take him to Thailand to learn Vipassana. I was for 6 months there in forest monastery, and 98 years old master taught me Vipassana. So this type of journey started. Why I mentioned this? Because of this compassionate mind and a very kind heart and a very, a passion of tolerance, brotherhood. They help you to shape your future. Whatever you want to become in life, these teachings taught by the Buddha himself are not meant for the masters only, the seekers of knowledge only, to become a good human being, to be very successful in professional life also. These are very important. Therefore, I won't like to take much time because it will take hours if I tell everything. Recently, 5 years before, there was World Cultural Dialogue in Azerbaijan. There I went as a guest of honor. Macedonia ambassador invited me to speak on such subjects. I keep on traveling because this is the teaching of the Buddha also. Don't get attached to one place. We believe, Ayam Nija Paroveti, Ganana Lajhuk Chaitsam, Udar Charita Namantu, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Whole world is one family. Therefore, I am sure with the presentation of the young minds and the scholars will highlight many of the aspects that were discussed in the morning in a new way, in a young way, and they will finally contribute to a very full, very wonderful understanding of 4 immeasurables and Eightfold Path, Eightfold Noble Path in Theravada tradition also, and Mahayana tradition also. I would like to quote a very wonderful, which always inspires me and helped me in my professional and personal life when I say, Sabba papasya akaranam kusalasa upasampada sachit pariyad padam etam buddhana sasanam. Very important. If you are free from defilements, you will be a happy man. Practice is more important. Therefore, the topic is study academically and practice also. Though it is very difficult, practicing compassion is very difficult in modern world, in materialistic world. Buddha had said, Sukarani asadhuni attano hitani cha pamte hitascha sadhuscha tamare param dukkharam. Good things are always difficult to do, but ultimately they pay dividend in your life. Thanks for your patience. Now we will hear our young presenters, and then we will have a views on their papers and presentation. Thank you so much. One more, I always said, no paresham bilomani, no paresham katakatam. Don't follow others, what they do. Do follow your own heart, your own mind, your own compassionate mind. Thank you so much. Bhavatu sabba mangalam. Should we start now? So we have 7 panelists, young panelists. I start with Mr. Dheeraj Kumar Nirbhay to present his paper. I will also advise him to restrict to the time so that people have the patience to listen you and understand you also.
Thank you. As we know, India is the motherland of 4 religions: Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and Hinduism. Buddhism is a vast religion which has spread mostly all over this world. After the Enlightenment, Prince Siddhartha became Lord Buddha. In the beliefs of both Buddhist sects, Theravada and Mahayana, 4 immeasurable and helpful noble paths help people become more happy and prosperous than others. 4 immeasurables called Brahma vihara are Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekha. It helps lead to the development of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the status of our mind which helps us to become Buddha. Enlightenment, noble truths are the way which help us to know the reality of this world. This time when people and all creatures are suffering from many natural and human reasons in their life, many people lost their happiness, humanity, and compassion in their life. It's a good time for us to return to our ancient Dhamma Magga, which is Buddhism, and it will be helpful for everyone to live life happily in this world. India is the land of enlightenment, and India is the land of Lord Buddha, and India is the land of knowledge. I say difference between Theravada, the teachings of the elders, and Mahayana, the great vehicles, differences in teachings. It's different regions because Theravada influence in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, and Sri Lanka, and Mahayana, Northern Asia, Tibet, China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and Mongolia. Collections of sutta in both sects, the Pali canon, older teachings written in Pali language in Theravada, many new sutras written in Sanskrit, Chinese, and other languages in Mahayana. Achieving liberation in Theravada focused on the development of arhatship or personal insight and awakening. In Mahayana, more focus on bodhisattva and the awakening of the collective whole. Meditation practice in Theravada, developing insight through samatha and vipassana practice with incorporation of heart practice. In Mahayana, mindfulness practice, samatha practices, and use of mantras and rituals in meditation. Icons and rituals. In Theravada, some chanting, statues of the Buddha, and prostrations. In Mahayana, much more art, statues, mantras, and ritual practices. The leaders of Theravada, we know the Emperor Ashoka. Emperor Ashoka sent many missionaries to spread Buddhism. Ashoka missionaries were sent as far away as Greece and Thailand. His own son Mahendra and daughter Sanghamitra was sent to Sri Lanka. King Ashoka in Mahayana, according to historical information, the first stone statue of Buddha were erected under Kanishka. The 4 immeasurables that called Brahma Viharas, boundless, sublime attitudes of heart, mind to be cultivated. Loving kindness, that is metta; compassion, that is karuna; sympathetic joy, that is mudita; equanimity, upekha. The Buddha's noble at full path, Arya, Athangika, Magga, that is Alfoot path. Right understanding, Sappa, Ditti. The Brahma Vihara, love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. A Vihara is an abode or a dwelling place. Love in Sanskrit is Maitri, in Pali it is Metta, compassion is Karuna in both languages, joy is Mudita, equanimity is Upekha in Sanskrit and Upekha in Pali. The Brahma Viharas are four elements of true love. They are called immeasurable because if you practice them, they will grow every day until they embrace the whole world. You will become happier and those around you will become happier also. Nagarjuna philosophy. According to Nagarjuna, the 2nd century Buddhist philosopher, practicing the immeasurable mind of love, enthusiasm, anger in the hearts of living beings, practicing the immeasurable mind of joy, extinguishing sadness and joylessness in the hearts of living beings, practicing the immeasurable mind of equanimity, extinguishes hearted aversion and attachment in the hearts of living beings. In the Thich Nhat Hanh philosophy, if we learn ways to practice love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, we will know how to heal the illnesses of anger, sorrow, insecurity, sadness, heartache, loneliness, and unhealthy attachments. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha teaches, if a mind of anger arises, the bhikkhu, monk, can practice the meditation or love, compassion, or equanimity for the person who has brought about the feeling of anger. By Thich Nhat Hanh, January 1997, Dhamma talk. Asanga philosophy. The 4th century Indian Buddhist philosopher Asanga speaks of two types of equanimity. A meditator's own equanimity toward all beings and his or her wish that those beings develop without end. The latter is limitless because beings are limitless. Longchen Longchenpa, the practitioner of Dojang, who wrote in 14th century Tibet, thought both a practitioner's equanimity toward others, he writes, comes from recognizing that everyone seeks happiness by any cling, 2014 magazine column. Buddhist philosophy, Acharya Baldev Upadhyay. Atta Deepa Bhavat Atta Sarana. That means you yourself become a lamp and don't go in the refuge of others. Go in your own refuge. Its sense is that through the light that comes from your conscience, understand the secrets of religion, and without coming in the shelter of a teacher or a hermit, show your own path. Where other religions have declared the Guru as greater than good and made in the ultimate duty of the disciple to take refuge in him, there Lord Buddha limited the power of the Guru and rendered the importance of the disciple, Bodha Darshan Mimamsa. This picture is taken from Tibet. Longchenpa, Dram Ojen, Tibet, 1899. Nyingma lineage ground mineral pigment on cotton, courtesy, Rubin, Museum of Art. This picture shows Bodhicitta. For immunization, for save humanity and nature, all the people in the world. One world, one family, one future, Vasudev Kutumbakam. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dheeraj Kumar Nirvaji, for your wonderful presentation on Brahma Vihara in modern perspective. Now I invite Mrs. Karma Sichue to present her paper.
Okay. Changchu semjo rinpoche ma ge panam ge gyoje ge bangyam ba me yang khone khondo phelwar show. Good afternoon to all. So I would like to begin my session by reciting one of my favorite quote by His Holiness. All living beings, starting from insects, want happiness and not suffering. However, we are one, whereas others are infinite in number. Thus, it can be clearly decided that others gaining happiness is more important than just yourself alone. Second, I would like to thank Geshe-la for giving us this opportunity to speak on our experience related to this topic. When I first embarked on my journey towards the world of Nalanda studies, and when I started studying the text written by the Nalanda masters, the question that I asked to myself is, isn't the wish for the happiness of all sentient beings too idealistic? That question was quite prominent and stayed in my mind for a very long time, and it really interested me to choose bodhicitta as the research topic for my ME thesis. So, talking about compassion, compassion is completely different. The thing is, no matter how different we are on the outset, like ethnicity, how we think and all, but when we talk about compassion, we all agree. It is that one thing which brings all of us together. I would like to give an example of Lama Adisha. Lama Adisha, who is considered the master illuminator of awakening, received teachings on cultivating bodhicitta from three main teachers. They are Lama Selingpa and Lama Dhammarakshita and Lama Selingpa, Lama Dhammarakshita and one more, I forgot, sorry. So the thing is, Lama Selingpa from Indonesia, he holds the Cittamatta school of thought, whereas Lama Dhammarakshita, he spoke about Vaibhashika school of thought, but Adisha himself spoke mainly about Madhyamika school of thought. But despite the differences in their views related to the topic on emptiness, when Lama Adisha hears his teacher's sound, he used to fold his hand with deep veneration, with tears in his eyes. So I now would like to read out the importance of generating compassion in the spiritual context. In the sutra called Showing the Secrets of the Tathagata Sutra, it says, Guyapati, Lord of the Secrets, the primordial wisdom of the Omniscient One grows from the root of compassion. Kese Thome Sangpo, in his commentary on the 7 points of mind training, mentions that Guru Dhammarakshita, from whom Lord Adisha received teachings on cultivating bodhicitta, realized emptiness purely through cultivating love and compassion. Arya Asanga, the trailblazer of Yogacara school of thought, had a vision of Arya Maitreya after generating strong compassion towards a wounded dog. And finally, in the precious jewel garland by Arya Nagarjuna, he said, food cooked in 300 pots and given to people 3 times a day, that merit cannot be matched by the practice of loving kindness for just one moment. So, talking about my experience, I would like to share something with you all. I believe that most of us, all of us gathered here, experience some degree of fear or uneasiness at some point in their life. But for me, I used to have this fear of missing out when I was young. So, yeah, I used to have very strong panic attacks when I was young. So I used to ask this question: when will this fear let go of me? That was the only question I used to ask. So, later during the bachelor studies, I used to come to Tibet House on weekends, and Geshe-la used to teach Arya Deva's 400 verses at the time. But that time, to be honest, I don't really understand what he was teaching. I was only awed by the exuding confidence he used to show when he was teaching. So later in office, he used to give advice on me on how to deal with the destructive emotions and all. So the main point of sharing this side of my story is to give emphasis on skillful means and the wisdom to understand the root cause of our suffering. For myself, as for me, I didn't understand what is the root cause of my fear. I was trying to escape from the fear, taking gap years and so on, watching movies and all, but that wasn't the thing. We have to understand the root cause. So I would like to quote what Buddha said in his sutras, all phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of the causes as well is taught by the great seer. So with following that, later I read the book called Shantideva's book on Bodhisattva's way of life. In this book, in chapter 6, patience chapter, the verse 10 says, why be unhappy about something if it can be remedied? And what is the use of being unhappy about something if it cannot be remedied? This verse, when I heard for the first time, I felt it like an oral instruction. So, yeah. So talking about the skillful means, so if we were a therapist, like, and also exposed to Buddhist philosophy, if we were to treat people with panic attacks or anxieties or anything, we shouldn't be saying like the root of your problem is self-grasping ignorance, right? This might even make that person go worse, right? Like, so like I said, when Geshe-la taught 400 verses, I didn't understand anything, but what really helped me was his method aspect, like how he advised us, like, So with regards to that, I now would like to draw your attention towards the 7 points mind training. They are the skillful means of practice taught by the Buddha originally. So the 7 verses talks mainly about seven main points. These are preliminaries, the main practice, transforming adversity into the path of enlightenment, applying the practice throughout the whole of life, the measure of mind training, and the commitments of mind training, and finally the precepts of mind training. So actually I'm nobody to talk about the rest of the 6 from 2nd till the 7th. Also, I'm still doing research on this, but I would like to touch briefly on the first one, preliminaries. So today morning, Venerable Pujala correctly said, like, in order to generate bodhicitta, the ground is renunciation. So in order to renunciate the samsaric goals and mundane concerns, we have to understand what is actually samsara. What is the nature of suffering and all of this, and what is the cause of suffering. And for this, I think it is important that we practice the preliminaries also. And the preliminaries constitutes 4 thought transformation. In Tibetan, we say Lodo Nambashi. And these 4 are: first, reflecting upon the precious human birth. Second, reflecting upon death and impermanence. And third, karmic causality. And finally, reflecting upon the drawbacks of samsara. By reflecting upon these key points, we can actually make our wish to attain enlightenment stronger, because the baseline is strong, right? So based on this, we can develop bodhicitta and the higher training. So as Geshe-la always say, like, in order to embark into the path of spiritual journey, we shouldn't start by talking about non-duality, tathagata garbha, ultimate reality, and so forth. We should be humble enough to begin with dealing with the 4 thought transformations. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we should always take the gradual approach. Yeah. So, as I said, in this talk, there is nothing here that has not been taught by Geshe-la in his class, and I owe everything to Geshe-la. I am what I am today because of Geshe-la. Thank you all.
Thank you, Karma, for your very nice presentation on bodhicitta. And in the perspective of Brahma viharas, I would like to mention here, with your permission, that how bodhicitta is cultivated in spite of facing several downs in life. The best example right now we have is His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama. You see, I was fortunate, I had told Venerable how I could manage to visit Potala Palace, Lhasa, and Segati also. I could feel that how he could have left the place such. And at a very young age, he had to leave everything and came to Bomdila and then established the center in Dharamshala. So much suffering endured in his life. But in spite of all these sufferings, he could not lose his bodhicitta. This is the best example. If we practice in our life, we can always cultivate this quality in our life, which will help us to sustain in adverse situation. Thank you for your presentation. Now, I invite Namsa Lamo to present her paper.
Tishtile, Tishtile. My sincere hope that my voice reaches everyone present in this room and beyond, everyone, including the participants watching from the live YouTube broadcast. I would like to commence by sharing the following verse, and upon finding an opportune moment, I intend to further contemplate on this. 동인제 송도 죽벨람 체질 세실 간체 텐조게 장나 빼모 텐시 갸솔라 소와 뎁소 신들룬 좁쇼. I would like to express my deep reverence to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the embodiment of compassion and wisdom. My profound respect goes to Venerable Geshe Pandit Thakur Rinpoche for his work, The Soothing Rays of Moonlight. I extend my gratitude to Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdula for his guidance and mentorship for my understanding on the intersection of Buddhist psychology and modern psychology. And my heartfelt thanks to Tibet House team for their unwavering support and dedication to fostering a rich learning environment. To the chairperson, panelists, and all involved, thank you for engaging in a meaningful discussion and contributing to our collective learning experience. My name is Namsa Lamo, and today I have the privilege of addressing you on the crucial topic, the synergy of Buddhist psychology of compassion for psychophysical well-being. I would like to shed light on the significance of the synergy and express my great concern regarding the pressing need for it in our current lives. In our fast-paced and interconnected world, the pursuit of well-being has become increasingly paramount. While modern psychology offers valuable insight into human behavior and understanding on mental health, it is essential to recognize the unique contributions of Buddhist psychology, particularly its emphasis on compassion. It is evident that the modern mental health awareness movement has experienced a significant surge in the later half of the 20th century. While the concept of well-being has always been inherent to human experience, there has been a notable increase in the awareness and effort to promote it in recent times, while also addressing the psychological struggles, increasing stress, disconnection, and societal challenges, where the urgent need for compassion is undeniable. However, the integration of Buddhist psychology with modern psychology remains an unexplored territory. This is a missed opportunity, as the synergy of these two disciplines has the potential to offer a comprehensive framework for promoting well-being and addressing the challenges of our time. By incorporating the principles of Buddhist psychology into modern psychological approaches, we can open new avenues of developing evidence-based interventions that effectively promote well-being and deepen our understanding of compassion's impact on mental and emotional well-being. Where researchers indicate that by practicing compassion enhances positive emotions, reduces stress, fosters resilience, and strengthens interpersonal relationships. Building upon this line of thought, I would like to direct your attention briefly to the three distinctive approaches through which compassion towards sentient beings can be comprehended and fostered. The distinction among them is made on the basis of whether great compassion is directly informed by an insight into the impermanent nature of things, or an insight into the absence of inherent existence nature of phenomena, or none of the above too.
Yes.
And compassion observing the sentient beings, or compassion as in general, which falls under the third category, refers to the compassionate attitude extended towards all sentient beings to be free from the dukkha of samsara without discrimination or distinction. It is an all-encompassing and unconditional compassion that recognizes the inherent worth and value of every living being. It transcends personal biases, preferences, and attachment, and encompasses both loved ones and strangers, as well as beings we might find difficult or challenging. Compassion as general recognizes the interconnectedness and shared vulnerability of all living beings, promoting a sense of universal care and concern. Compassion, observing their impermanence, recognizes the ever-changing and impermanent nature of all phenomena and wishes sentient beings to be free from the dukkha that occurs due to the distortion of seeing impermanent things as permanent. It acknowledges that suffering, just like all other experiences, is subject to impermanence. This perspective helps cultivate compassion that is not overwhelmed or fixed on the suffering itself, but rather to the changing condition and needs of the sentient, acknowledges the transient nature. It allows for a more fluid and adaptable response to the changing conditions and needs of the sentient beings. Compassion as impermanent reminds us that suffering can be transformed and elevated through understanding, support, and impermanent nature of experience itself. Compassion observing their unobservable, or compassion as non-referential, highlights the importance of compassion that is free from conceptualization, where the wish to free all sentient beings from dukkha that occurs due to the distortion of seeing non-inherently existing things as inherently existing. It transcends the fixation and involves letting go of tendency to label, judge, or hold on to specific notions of self and others. It recognizes the inherent emptiness or lack of inherent existence of all phenomena, including the self. By letting go of fixed references and concepts, compassion becomes more inclusive, spacious, and unbounded. It is a compassionate response that arises from a deep understanding. Yes, thank you. Understanding of the interconnected and independent nature of reality. Just as compassion can be cultivated infinitely, the benefits of cultivating compassion is infinite too. Few of the many benefits I would like to express here are: with compassion, you develop a sense of genuine concern for others, respect, harmony, love, friendliness, inclusiveness, trust, acceptance, nonviolence, positivity, self-confidence, sense of one humanity and oneness of all sentient beings in wanting happiness and overcoming miseries. Now it is crucial to examine the motivation behind the desire to cultivate great compassion, particularly in the light of the Buddhist perspective that there is no definitive beginning to our series of rebirths. According to this viewpoint, all sentient beings have, at some point, been one's mother similar to the one from this life. This profound understanding emphasizes the interconnected and shared history among all beings. By delving deeper among all beings, leaving no sentient beings excluded from this relational framework. By delving deeper into this motivation, we can gain a more precise and nuanced comprehension of the significance of generating great compassion in the following lines. The recognition of all sentient beings as having been one's mother, father, or benefactor, those who have shown kindness by benefiting us in some way. So for example, we may reflect on the countless individuals who have nurtured and supported us throughout our lives, such as your parents, teachers, friends, or even strangers who have extended a helping hand during challenging times. Remembering of their kindness as mothers, fathers, or benefactors, by recalling the benevolent action and support we have received, we develop a deep appreciation for the positive impact others have had on our lives. Like, for instance, we may reflect on how our parents sacrificed their own time and their needs so that they could provide us with love, care, and compassion. Remembrance of kindness as the mind aspiring to repay their kindness. That is, this motivation involves a genuine desire to reciprocate their kindness, we have received by extending compassion and support to others. So, for example, someone who has experienced the support of mentor during their career development may aspire to become a mentor themselves, guiding and assisting others on their professional journeys. The fourth one, cherishing love that sees all sentient beings as pleasing no matter what. This motivation involves cultivating an unconditional love and empathy towards all beings, recognizing their inherent worth and potential for happiness. For instance, one might develop a compassionate attitude towards animals, advocating for their welfare and actively supporting organizations working to protect and care for them. By developing firm conviction based on these compassionate motivations, it is imperative that we learn the two different methods of cultivating great compassion and bodhicitta. As I have mentioned before, compassion towards other sentient beings is the key to generating your own happiness, and this compassion needs to be cultivated constantly over time by one's own effort. So great Indian masters such as Lama Silingpa and Bodhisattva Shantideva has identified the steps to develop genuine compassion through two different methods. Firstly, the sevenfold cause and effect, Gyunte in Tibetan, is from the lineage of Arya Maitreya and taught by Lama Silingpa to Atisha Dipankara Srigyana. The method is clearly identified and taught by Lama Tsongkhapa in the great treatises on the stages of the path to enlightenment. Second, equalizing and exchanging self with others method, Dakshin Yamche in Tibetan, again, is from the Arya Manjushri lineage and taught by Bodhisattva Shantideva in the Bodhisattva's way of life. Learning and familiarization with these methods will require more in-depth systematic study, and I sincerely urge you to consider the Nalanda programs available at Tibet House, which are geared specifically for working professionals, college students, and others who do not have the leisure of much
Please
time
conclude now.
and yet want to have a better understanding of how to find happiness. Yes, sorry, right there. I hope I have invoked in each and every one of you to take at least a few minutes to truly reflect and ponder on the great benefits of cultivating genuine compassion within yourself. So I would like to end here with the verse His Holiness, which he frequently cites from the Bodhicitta aspiration prayers. Rangshi thune rabdubshe chanju semni ke parkhi. So to perfectly accomplish the goals of oneself and others, generate the mind of bodhicitta. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Lamo, for your beautiful presentation on the psychological aspect of mental development. Now may I invite Mr. Stanjin Funso to give his presentation. Please keep in mind the time because it is running and other speakers are also here and time is also getting late. So please stick to time. It's okay.
Homage to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Chairperson, sir. Tashi Dilek and very delightful evening to all present here. Respected Chairperson, guests, esteemed speakers, and all my dear friends. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdula and all the staff members of Tibet House for providing me such a wonderful chance to express my views and be a part of this insightful conference. Thank you. As we know, the topic for today's student panel is relevance of the study of 4 immeasurables and the Eightfold Noble Path with their academic studies and life experiences. And I'm going to share my experiences on the significance in our day-to-day lives. The world we inhabit today in the 21st century is one characterized by ongoing wars, religious hostilities, a climate crisis, economic and political tensions, which pit people against one another and which are the source of great suffering. As a university student, I also see that we, the young people, are so susceptible to the stresses and the pressures in this phase of our life, and how this create many hurdles as we try to move towards forging careers. I personally feel that there is a strong relevance of concepts like the four immeasurables and the eightfold noble path in our life, in our day-to-day lives. These profound teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni have an enormous impact in our own life because of the level of genuineness and the logical proof this value has. In addition, we have the liberty to critically analyze these valuable concepts to their utmost, because as in the previous session, Venerable Geshe Tenzin Damchola mentioned that the Tathagata, Buddha himself stated, just as the goldsmith tests his gold by burning, rubbing and cutting it, likewise we should examine his words and not accept them out of reverence. The immense greatness of these topics in benefiting us lies in the flexibility and the ways in which they can be implemented accordingly in our day-to-day lives. So as Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdula already mentioned this morning about the gravity of C learning, which is social, emotional and ethical learning, with the profound blessings of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, the initiative of C learning with the help of Emory University has been a great support, and with its implementation in academics all around the world has really changed a lot in a positive way, where the main foundation of such teachings is Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings. For example, in Ladakh, it has been the curriculum of C learning has been taken into every school as a curriculum with the help of local administrations, and there has been seen a huge positive outcome not only amongst the students but also amongst the teachers. Let's hope and pray that this kind of curriculum to spread across the globe and educate the heart and mind to every individual with its secular approach, which makes it rare. So encountering with these valuable concepts through my study of Buddhist philosophy, psychology and logic has helped me to approach and tackle my academic studies with much greater ease and mindfulness. I also feel that as I internalize these concepts in my daily life, I'm able to more wisely comprehend the situation and circumstances in my life experiences. With the integration of such concepts, I have noticed that the process of education has become much smoother, easier, and more beneficial, as there is a gradual decrease in the negative emotions such as depression, anxiety, distress, and a great clarity in identifying our goals. So for instance, I would like to narrate a recent incident that happened with me. Like my sisters and I used to look after two stray puppies, and we kept them at our room because they were infected by a viral disease known as parvo disease, which is very viral in like stray puppies. So, and they are under treatment. So unfortunately, one of them couldn't survive and the other one recovered completely. So, so what happened one day, so one of the families staying backside our house heard a loud noise of a puppy as I stepped accidentally on the puppy's feet. So suddenly, you know, like out of nowhere, a woman came out at the balcony and straightly asked me without even thinking for a second, "Kuch galat to kaam nahi kar rahe ho?" So, aren't you doing any misdeed? You know, I'll go and inform the landlord. So, you know, and she even said, you know, what if you guys are trying to kill the puppy and eat it? So, you know, just imagine, you know, how you would feel if someone accuses you of a crime which you have not committed. Forget about committing, you know, like, which you even can't think of. So, you know, obviously, you know, at that time I was very sad and broken at the same time. So, the lady was, you know, the lady kept on saying whatever comes in her mouth, and, you know, at the same time I was also processing, like, how should I handle the situation, like. So, while she kept saying anything, you know, that came in her mind, my mind was totally occupied. So, although I feel very bad, But you know what I did, after letting her speak, I took some time and I calmed down myself and explained her in details, like how we recovered the stray puppies and how the treatments are going on. So at the same time, back in my mind, I was trying to bring the reasons of Tathagata Garbha or the Buddha nature, which is present in each one of us. But due to our prime course, self-grasping ignorance and tinted by self-centered attitude, we aren't able to recognize it. By thinking like this, I was kind of able to handle the situation better and convince her. So in the morning, as our chief guest, Srimati Rinchen Lamuji also mentioned that we must familiarize, thank you. We must familiarize ourselves with such studies. For the remedy to self-grasping ignorance, we must cultivate the wisdom of emptiness. That is the only path of liberation by studying, reflecting, and meditating. And initially for immeasurables and gradually cultivating the mind of bodhicitta, as Karmala mentioned, as a countermeasure for the subtlest of the self-centered attitude. So my main motive to share this incident is that, with consistent systematic learning of such insightful concepts has engraved in me subconsciously, which helps me to implement in my day-to-day life, for which I am very grateful to the Nalanda courses at Tibet House in the mentorship of Precious Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdula. And at the same time, for which I would also like to especially encourage my friends, students to always incorporate such studies in their daily lives, especially as these topics are nothing to do with any religion, but with scientific and secular way to manage our emotions in our life. So today's conference has been really knowledgeable and have learned a lot from various dynamic speakers as they succinctly discussed from all the fields. Takeaway from this conference, Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdula and other speakers mentioned the importance of inclusiveness and how it leads to the harmony among us. And also, Venerable Geshe Lode Sangpola also emphasized on the practice of great compassion, which really enhances not only our mental well-being, but also our physical well-being by proper functioning of our body. And also, Venerable Professor Mirish Wathe Vimala Gyana also mentioned about how four immeasurables lead to a healthy emotional well-being. So it's like very admirable to see how different traditions and disciplines come together to have a discussion and dialogue in sharing and embracing the commonalities, respecting the differences. At last, it's my humble request to Tibet House to keep conducting such noble conferences in future also, so that we as college or university students and all the people can gain more knowledge and establish our supreme goal, seeking infinite happiness and Buddhahood. So I would like to end here by mentioning the Arya Nagarjuna's 5 profundities from Mulya Madhyamika Karika. A ceasing of karma and affections is nirvana. Karma and affections arise from conceptual thought. This arises from mental elaboration. Elaboration ceases into emptiness. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Funsuk, for your presentation on the practical aspect in daily to day life, and you gave an example also. Very nice presentation. Now, I invite Mrs. Vaishali Sarkar, a very young scholar, to give her presentation. Mrs. Vaishali Sarkar. Miss. Okay. See.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and venerable Sangha members. Today, I will be speaking on the importance of Brahma Vihara amidst the unsettling state of our world. So global tensions are mounting day in and day out. And in an increasingly interconnected world, global problems and issues have become pressing challenges that affect not only the well-being of humanity, but also the sustainability of the planet. So these require collaborative efforts and innovative solutions, because these problems transcend beyond borders and affect all of us. So the ongoing global chaos, to be summed up in brief, could be, number 1, global warming, with human activities playing a significant role in climate change. Number 2, the world's population is undergoing shifts, with projections indicating declining populations in Europe and East Asia, while significant growth in Africa and South Asia. Persistent poverty, number 3, continues to be a root cause for various global issues, including famine, disease, and inadequate education. Infectious diseases, number 4, claim numerous lives every year. Additionally, the emergence of new pandemics and epidemics require robust preparedness and response mechanism to safeguard public health. Number 5, warfare remains a global concern, and nuclear proliferation raises the specter of catastrophic consequences. Number 6, the digital age has presented newer challenges for us in the digital realm, and striking a proper balance between protecting intellectual property and promoting innovation and creativity and public access to knowledge is remaining a debatable topic till now. Along with this, the rapid advancements in technology, including artificial intelligence and automation, are reshaping societies and economies. Number 7, despite progress, many aspects of civil rights, including women's rights, LGBT rights, and the rights of disabled and neurodiverse individuals are still works in progress. Gender inequality, sexual violence against women, and discrimination against minority groups persists in many societies. So, we all know that our actions speak louder than words. But before that, our mind governs it. Our mind governs an array of cognitive functions, processes, sensations, and actions. It orchestrates complex interactions between various brain structures to enable perception, decision-making, and emotional response to a situation. So what happens when the mind is consumed by conflict or is in a state of chaos? When the mind is consumed by conflict and engaged in a state of chaos, it experiences profound sense of discomfort characterized by feelings of unease, fear, and irritation. This inner turmoil not only affects the mind but also takes a toll on the body. How? It increases our stress level. And this heightened state leads to perceptions becoming distorted. And this is just a manifestation of our inner turmoil. We show it externally. And this perpetuates and flows into different social cycles, creating destructive cycles of violence and hostility. It is here that the practice of Brahma Vihara comes into use. The practice of Brahma Vihara, also known as 4 divine abodes or the sublime states, offer a transformative path to calming our mind and cultivating peace within and without. So let's know what are the 4 Brahma Viharas. This has already been discussed, but since this is a topic, metta or loving kindness, number 1. An attitude of active goodwill towards all beings. By cultivating metta, we develop a deep sense of care towards others. This practice helps us to soften the mind, dissolve feelings of animosity, and promote harmony and understanding. Number 2, karuna or compassion involves recognizing and empathizing with the suffering of others as if it were our own. This breaks down the barriers of self-centeredness and develops a genuine concern for the well-being of others. It also broadens our understanding and perspective of others. Number 3, mudita or sympathetic joy is the experience of rejoicing in the happiness and success of others, even if we were not directly involved in it. What happens if we practice mudita? By practicing mudita, we counteract feelings of envy, jealousy, and cultivate a sense of interconnectedness and shared joy. The practice fosters a generous and open-hearted attitude towards the achievements and joys of others. Equanimity or upekha is a quality of even-mindedness or serenity. It involves treating all beings impartially. without attachment or aversion. By cultivating equanimity, we develop a balanced perspective that allows us to respond to situations with clarity, wisdom, and inner peace. According to Harvey Aronson, he says, the concept of Brahma Vihara was there during 6th century BCE. But the Buddha's perspective completely differed from the ongoing debate of Brahma Vihara or the Brahma world that was going on. How? He says that the practice of mere love and compassion is not only enough to get rid us of suffering, but the practice of metta, mudita, karuna, upekha, coupled with the Arya Ashtangik Marg, can lead us to complete cessation of suffering and also end the karmic cycle and leave us from the cycle of birth and rebirth. The another scholar, Richard Gombrich, he says that the term Brahma Vihara had evolved within time and again in the Buddhist framework. And he meant it's an awakened state of mind with a genuine attitude towards other beings. Being in the present, simply meaning being aware of all the surroundings in and around. So, our values and our social organizations significantly influence how individuals and communities respond to global change, whether through modifying social structures or adjusting values or actively transforming the environment itself. This intricate web of causality presents a challenge when it comes to projecting the consequences of global change on human societies. The practice of Brahma Vihara is transformative and requires mindful awareness and intentional cultivation. Through the development of Brahma Vihara, we can break down the complexities and because of it teaches valuable insights which we can embrace and work together. We can overcome these obstacles that lie ahead and create a more harmonious and sustainable world. We must recognize the urgency of the call, united and beyond differences, strive towards a shared vision of a better future. Signing off, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Vaishali Sarkar, for your very nice and beautifully depicted and analyzed presentation. Now I invite Mr. Tushar Mani Rastogi, who is also a student and young scholar, to present his paper.
Okay, greetings everyone. And right, so while studying about this topic and while studying about the Eightfold Noble Path, I realized on the very first path of the right view, there is a gap between right view and right resolve. If I have gotten it right, listening to all of the scholars and all of the practitioners here, then the right view involves the knowledge. Also, it is the mere psychological grasping of these things, right? So it is the knowledge of the Four Noble Truths, right? The importance of them, Pratitya Samutpad, to understand it, the Samvritti Sat, because obviously you cannot grasp the Paramarthik Sat at that level. And so all of that, understanding the mere psychological grasping of that is right view, right? Then you have to go through three ways of gaining wisdom. One is through learning. The next one is through meditation. It is through reflection, right? So you reflect on what you read. Then the third is meditating on it. That you familiarize yourself with it, that you practice it enough that it becomes a part of you, right? Right. Now the thing is, a lot of people, now here is where I found the gap, that a lot of people know, so this is a funny example, a lot of fat people know that if they run on the treadmill for like 6 months, they'll get thin, like they'll get slim. but not many of them are actually slim, right? So what is this thing that happens right here when you have the right view, right understanding of how things are, and right resolve, when you actually resolve to, as a layman, obviously not as a practitioner, to non-violence, to non-ill will. So that is the practitioner when that is the practice of it, right? So how does it translate from mere understanding to action? That is the issue, which I think is of any certain significance, right? So now the thing is, we have to understand that mere grasping of relation of ideas or matters of fact will not motivate the will to act in any direction, right? So what will? So okay, let's just take the fat man's example again. So there is a fat guy, right? And he understands the relation of ideas as in, there is a relation between running for 6 months on a treadmill and getting thin, right? That is a relation, right? That's a real empirical relation, right? But the thing is, he does not have enough motivation to do that. Motivation comes from, okay, so then one day he just gets humiliated by some friend who calls him fat, like straight on his face, he calls him fat. And so that creates a certain emotion in him. And that emotion drives that passion in him, that emotion in him. And he wants to find out ways to get rid of this uneasiness, this humiliation that he feels now. And then he uses reason or that relation of ideas as a means to achieve his end, which is to actually get, then when combined with the reason, then passion will actually lead one to action, right? So this is the thing. Okay, so that is basically what, okay, yeah. Wisdom, okay. So if I just go through my idea of it, then I would like to read a certain passage from this text of David Hume, of the influencing motives of the will, right? Nothing is more, okay, so there is this thing in philosophy and in every other discipline, right? Which is, if you have to decide what will be the basis of your action, it should be reason and not emotions, because emotions are unstable, they are non-reliable. Reason, on the other hand, is well thought of, it is calculated, it is reliable, right? So the thing is, on this, David Hume has a certain thing to say. He says that nothing is more usual in philosophy and even in common life than to talk of the combat of passion and reason, to give the preference to reason and assert that men are only so far virtuous as they conform themselves to its dictates. Okay, so basically the idea is you have to act in accordance with reason. Now there is a problem with acting in accordance with reason. Reason, okay, so for that we'll have to understand a certain technical thing, the empirical theory of the mind, which Hume gives, which is that you get impressions and then you have their faint copies, which are ideas. So if I, for example, go to a doctor and he just injects me with a syringe, right? Then I feel pain. That pain is hurtful. So I feel pain, I feel suffering, whatever that is. And that is an impression. That is a very vivid, forceful impression. I cannot not feel that. I feel that, right? And then I remember it. Then when I go back home, I remember that pain. Then the next day I remember that pain, and the next day I remember that pain. But the thing is, never ever in my remembrance is that pain as painful as the pain that I actually felt in the impression. So this is what he calls impressions, the thing that happens right at the moment, and the idea which is the remembrance of that thing, right? Now just imagine if the next year I have to again go back to the doctor for the same kind of syringe, right, whatever injection I will get, right? It will create three kinds of feelings in me. These are feelings, these are passions. Again, one will be anxiety, that I'm kind of afraid to go to the doctor. Fear, obviously I don't want to go, and I want to avoid it, right? So these passions are nowhere present in the original impression, but these are reflective impressions which arrive from ideas. So there is a certain gap in the sense that when I get the right view as impressions should create corresponding ideas, which when reflected upon should cause reflective impressions, which should cause me to have feelings of not wanting to hurt others, not wanting to will ill of others, So that is a certain thing that I figured out in this, and yeah, that's I think pretty much it. I wouldn't want to take more of anyone's time. I think everyone's tired, and so that is my idea, that there is this like whatever we've been talking about since the morning is a certain kind of edification, right? It is a certain kind of talk, and this talk everyone kind of knows it. In fact, I am no more I'm not an expert, right? But people here are not only experts but they are also practitioners, right? So they obviously know more than me. So the point is, it is not about knowing what it is. It is about how you translate it to action. You can't translate it to action if you're trying to fight passions with reason, because reasons are mere relations of things. You understand how things work. So if you find 2 + 2 is 4, you understand that. But that is not going to influence you. You're not going to use it unless you want to. You actually care about it. So you're not going to use this knowledge unless you care about it. So you may be a scholar, but it makes no difference to anyone unless you care about it. That care is what we have to worry about, and that will lead to right resolve from right view. That is what I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Tushar Rastogi, for your presentation, especially focusing on the practical aspect. Now, may I invite Ms. Sneha Singh to present her paper. And I think in this panel, she is the last one.
Good evening, everyone. As the last speaker amongst the student panelists, I would like to thank everyone who was present today, and His Honorable President of the Tibetan House. I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous. So I'll just start with my presentation. So, can mind be changed? So, while having a conversation at the lunch a few hours ago with one of my professors of Delhi University, we were discussing about how can thoughts and feelings, feeling of compassion can be intrinsically owned by one person, and how can it be taught, or can mind actually be changed? And after listening to all distinguished and honorable speakers, I've come to a short conclusion. From my own limited experience, I am convinced that through constant training, we can indeed develop our minds. Our positive attitudes, thoughts, and outlooks can be enhanced, and their negative counterparts can be reduced. Even a single moment of consciousness depends on so many factors. The mind also changes, and as Venerable Geshe Sangpola mentioned, by feeling compassion for others, our own suffering become manageable. The thing that we call mind is quite peculiar. Sometimes it is very stubborn and very resistant to change. And with conviction based on reason, our mind are sometimes quite honest and flexible. When we truly recognize that there is some need to change, we ultimately ground reason in our experience. And it becomes a bit easy to make profound changes. As a basis for change, we need to recognize that as long as we live in this world, we will encounter problems, things that obstruct the fulfillment of our goals. When these happen, we lose hope and become discouraged, to which Dr. Pooja ma'am mentioned that antidote to self-grasping ignorance is wisdom. Each new obstacle can be seen as yet another valuable opportunity to improve our mind, another opportunity for deepening our compassion. As a result, our own serenity and inner strength will increase. Self-centeredness inhibits our love for others, and we are all afflicted by it, one degree to another. For true happiness to come about, we need a calm mind, and such peace of mind is brought only by right compassionate attitude. Exertions or efforts purifies the mental obstructions. It is an antidote for the path of liberation. According to Buddhism, for a man to be perfect leader, there are two qualities that he should develop equally: compassion, karuna, and wisdom, panna. Compassion represents love, charity, kindness, tolerance. Such noble qualities are qualities of heart, while wisdom would stand for the intellectual side of the qualities of mind. If one develops only the emotional, neglecting the intellectual, one may become a good-hearted fool, while to develop only the intellectual side and neglecting the emotional may turn one into a hard-hearted intellect without feeling for others. Therefore, to be a part of perfect human life and to lead a life, one has to develop both equally and bring harmonious changes in the world. That is the chief aim of Ashtangika Marg, in which wisdom and compassion are inseparably linked together. Concluding, as there's a limit to the time, sir. So, path to liberation is what is meant by Buddhism. The Eightfold Path begins with, ends with, and is paved with compassion. And all roads lead to a better you, a better them, and a better us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sneha Singh, for your beautiful presentation.
I would also like to thank my friend Stans who encouraged me to attend this conference today.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm very grateful of him that he he told me about this and I got this opportunity to stand here amongst all the honorable speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. It was really a wonderful session of young panelists. Their presentation really, I felt so good that new ideas came. Scholars speak, distinguished scholars speak in their own ways after having several years of studies and teachings. These young scholars try to present the papers in the modern perspective because they have the young mind, and I am sure this presentation will contribute a lot in the future for future study of the four immeasurables and the Eightfold Path. I once again thank my panelists, and sorry, sometime I disrupted you because time is also very important and we must maintain the time. I quote the teaching of the Buddha, keeping in view all these deliberations, Maggana Tudiko Setho, Satchanam Chaturopado, Virag Setho Dhammanam, Dvipadama Chakhuma. Is very important. He mentioned everything. The need of the hour is to study them and practice them more. These students have clearly emphasized that we should practice them in our daily life. I quote from one very important. These all traditions we have, but we hardly practice. We should practice for the betterment of ourselves and for the society, for the nation. I quote from the Sanskrit canon, Yo dhurvani paritajya, adhurvani nishevate, dhurvani tasya nyasyanti, adhurvam nastamevai. We should not go here and there. Traditions are here. We have to just see, practice them, and the entire world look at us for aspirations, and we have to play a role. I once again thank you, the very academic and great scholar, I can say, in practical way, the director of the Culture Center, most venerable, for always organizing such conferences and giving the opportunities to everyone, irrespective of the background they have. You have started the Nalanda course from diploma, degree, and now masters, and this we feel the fragrance of those courses when we find these young people going under training under your very able guidance. Thank you so much for propagating this message of Nalanda. One I say in Hindi, जिसे फालतू समझकर बुझा दिया तुमने, जिसे फालतू समझकर बुझा दिया तूने, उसी चिराग को जलाओ तो फिर रोशनी होगी. Thank you so much. Bhavatu Sabba Malan. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
I would like to thank to each speakers for such a wonderful and magnificent topics that you guys all have shared with us. And it was indeed wonderful. May now I request Dr. Durjit Awalla, Assistant Professor, Cluster Innovation Center, Delhi University, to present the souvenir to Mr. Chairperson and to our dynamic speakers. Mr. Chairperson, Professor Dr. Arvind ji.
Start with the student. Maybe this.
Mr. Dheeraj Nirbe ji. Miss Karma Sijula. Miss Namsalamula. Mr. Stanzin Fuzola. Miss Peshali Sarkarji. Miss Sneha Singh ji. And Mr. Tushar Mani Rastogi ji. Thank you. Now, I would like to request our Secretary, Tenzin Kunkyapla, to deliver a vote of thanks. Mr. Kunkyapla.
Good evening, everyone. I'll just take a couple of minutes, so kindly bear with me. On behalf of Tibet House, New Delhi, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the speakers and chairperson for accepting our invitation and for sharing your profound knowledge with us and your unique presentations. Thank you to the student panels for your willingness to participate and for your enthusiastic and heart-touching presentations. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Geshe Dorji Damdula for the constant guidance to enhance our capabilities. And I would like to thank my colleagues for all the enthusiasm and efforts into putting all this together. Last but not the least, thank you to all the wonderful audience and students for your active participation in this conference. We hope that our audience found the conference informative and enjoyable, and hope to see you all again soon in our future conferences and seminars. As you can find in your program kit, so we have two programs coming up in the month of July. One to celebrate the 80th birthday of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, a roundtable discussion on universal ethics and responsibilities, challenges and solutions, on Thursday, 6th of July from 4 to 5:30 p.m. And on Sunday, 16th of July, a monthly lecture on living a balanced life guided by compassion and wisdom by Dr. John Colkin, internationally recognized award-winning photographer. Both the program will be held at Tibet House Conference Hall and is open for public, so do join us. If you wish to get regular updates of Tibet House programs, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter by sending us an email mentioned on the last page of the program booklet. You can also visit our website www.tibethouse.in, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That is all for today. Thank you all for joining us and have a great weekend. Thank you. So after the group photo of the panelists, everyone feel free to join us on the dais for a quick group photo. Thank you.